Hello friends, and welcome to my channel for what is going to be both an action figure review and a customization video. So I just got in the Manipple 112 scale Mezco scale Superman figure based on the Justice League film. I guess, you know, not the Snyder cut, but this is the version I wish was in the Snyder cut. The black suit looks cool, but nothing beats the red, yellow, and blue. Anyway, pre-ordered this, I don't know, maybe a year ago, and I've been anxiously awaiting it, and it turned out fantastic, so I'm really stoked about it. And I just kind of want to give you an overview of it, as well as take a look at what I'm going to do to it to make it a little bit more screen accurate. So first of all, this is what it comes with. You've got the figure itself, which is really nicely done. It comes with several sets of hands. That's really all the accessories you generally get with a Superman figure. So it's got these relaxed hands. These were not on it when I opened it, but I put these on because I love this set of hands, and I wish that every figure came with these because, you know, it's just a nice, very naturalistic look to them. You get two sort of flat, you know, I guess these would be used for what, like flying or something. A couple of these kind of open palm, action-y hands. These other sort of resting, two closed fists, and then two more, I guess, gripping hands, but they also kind of have a similar look to the relaxed ones. You could just put something in them more easily because they're not touching the thumb and the forefinger, whereas these are. And then beyond that, you get this stand, which is actually pretty nice. It's got this like metal weight in here. I thought maybe that meant that they had magnetized the bottom of the shoes so that you could, you know, place them on there, but it's just to keep it weighted down so that when you use this flight pole to pose him, it doesn't tip over, which I'm really glad they did that because a lot of stands don't. A lot of figure companies will give you, you know, just a huge stand like Mezco to kind of offset it, and those will still tip over sometimes. So you can screw this in, and this is kind of cool. I don't know if I can get it out, but it has like a little metal rod in here. There we go. And it's to keep this straight in the package. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I imagine if you want it to be straight up and down, you can reinsert that after bending it. And then it also has kind of a standard little crotch grabber. You don't often see these in 112 scale, sometimes with the imports, but typically this is a 1/6 scale figure thing. So I'm glad they included it because this figure has all kinds of like patterning and texture on it. Flight stands can kind of make impressions on that. So it's nice that we have one that's unobtrusive like that. And then over here, this is the Manipple head. So I bought this at least a year, probably 2 years ago now. This is the head that they produced, and it's meant for this body, or rather this body is meant for this head. I'm probably going to use it, but I have a custom head that I'm really happy with that nobody else has. So I'm like, you know, I might as well use that so mine doesn't look just like everybody else's maybe. And also he's kind of smiling in mine, which I enjoy. But yeah, I mean, this head is just incredible. I'm told that they are re-releasing it for pre-order, so check the different sites. There's 1/6 Kit, there's Toys Metaverse, there's VC Toys Box. So that's what it comes with. Let's take a bit of a closer look at the figure itself. So cool thing about this is that it's made similarly to the Hot Toys figure. And the Hot Toys figure was made similarly to the way they made the actual costume in the film. So what that was is he wore like a chromed out muscle suit underneath this fabric that is then stretched thin over it so that you see the chrome shining through. And you are getting some of that here, right? In the photos I've seen of other people posting these, I thought we were just seeing the reflection of this like chainmail texture that is on the figure. And to some extent we are, like on the stomach right there, you're seeing that. But like here, it is actually doing the chrome undersuit thing like it's intended to. So that's really nice. Unfortunately, I think given the scale of this and the way that the body's engineered, it's not pushing against it. So it's not giving you, like on the stomach area, it just kind of flattens out. You're not getting the ab definition that the suit has. So that's something I'm gonna alter by painting some silver onto these raised chainmail parts. But you know, A for effort for sure. I mean, it's really just, I guess they could have poked that out a bit more. A few people have received these already and done reviews of them. My buddy Perfect 112 Customs on YouTube. And then our friend, I think his Instagram name is Na Ramerd or something like NA_RAMAERD, I believe. He does a cool thing where he'll actually like open these up and sculpt musculature on them. He did that with his BVS Mezco Batman. And then with this figure, he did it and painted it chrome as well. So, you know, some cool customization has happened with this guy already. I'm definitely going to be doing some. Another thing Perfect 112 Customs did is he got a new cape for him. I ordered one based on his recommendation from Valhalla Customs. I haven't received it yet. You know, he said it takes probably 2 to 3 weeks, and he's in Mexico. So I'm being patient on that, obviously. But this will do for now, but I am excited to swap it out. For today, I'm not going to be doing that, but I am going to be doing the musculature, and then we're going to try the different heads on him. And we're also going to check out the comparison between this and like a Mezco version. So yeah, let's get him on the bench and see what we can come up with. Okay, before we get into customizing, I do just want to take a minute to look over the figure a bit. First of all, the proportions on this are really, really good. I mean, this looks like a little human. This is crazy. And I actually have the same head sculpt on my Hot Toys version of this, and so it's kind of cool to see this. I mean, it looks just like the Hot Toys one, more or less. Now, this head sculpt, so Manipple, I believe what they do a lot of times is you often have their own sculpts, but in this case, I think they shrunk down the Prime 1 3rd scale Superman statue head and made this out of it. And I'll put that up on the screen so you can see what that looks like and judge for yourself. But I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I think when they made their initial John Wick heads for like the Mafex figure, I think that was also one that they shrunk from a Hot Toys version. So it's cool to see that they're actually, you know, making a lot of their own figures. I know they've done their Breaking Bad stuff, and they're doing more in the DC EU line. So this is a really, really great first effort in those full-on DC figures, though. I mean, this thing looks incredible. The musculature and the legs is really nicely sculpted. You can see like the definition here. You know, a lot of times at this scale, if the fabric is too thick and it's got like a screen pattern on top of it, that can really obfuscate the musculature and like the sculpt. And, you know, we've seen that a bit here in the abdomen area. Now, I did sort of make it a little bit better by futzing with the articulation. There's a ball joint up here, like at the diaphragm. So I kind of pushed the chest back and the abdomen forward, and that actually gets you more of the like abs poking out look. So, you know, the more I look at this, the more I'm like, do I want to take silver paint to this, or should I just kind of like let it do its thing? Yeah, now I know some people, including my buddy Perfect 112, are using the Mafex scale head on this. It's a little bit smaller, and I think they like the proportion better because the neck is kind of tapering in here. And then there's just kind of this lip right here. I don't have an issue with that. I think it looks great. But it also looks good with the smaller head. I didn't think that was going to work, honestly, until I saw him do it. And I was like, dang, he's right. It does look pretty good. So yeah, that's an option as well. And those I think are maybe a little bit more readily available, whereas these are probably another pre-order thing. But yeah, you know, a lot of these figures, it just comes down to posing them right, trying to get a naturalistic pose. So, you know, chest forward, shoulders back, hands resting at the side, the legs in the right position. And one thing I do want to customize is this piece. It's kind of reading as like a dark gray or a black, and this is supposed to be the same kind of blue as what you see around the S and on these trim pieces. So now they did leave a little bit of a dip here for the cape, which I think was smart, because if you ever had the first, you know, the Man of Steel Hot Toys figure, the cape was bumped up way too high and it just didn't sit on the shoulders right. So they accommodated for that by making this a little bit lower, and so that it can rest like that and have the right profile. Another thing they did well, that the prototypes, like he had like a saggy crotch, and they really cinched it up nicely so it doesn't look like he's wearing pajamas as much. So let's get my custom Mezco one out here and compare the two next to each other. All right, I think this is going to be a really interesting comparison. So on the right, this is actually a knockoff Mezco one. I had the authentic one, but I customized a knockoff because I was worried about messing with the authentic version. And it was like an early Mezco custom for me. And I ended up being pretty happy with this one, so I just kept this and sold the official one. You can see the difference between the way the neck connector works. It's a separate piece on this, and then it's like a whole singular piece on this guy. But they did a similar thing with the cape, but like left too much room. The shoulders are too wide. They do this weird kind of ribcage diaphragm thing. Even when you do that articulation trick I was doing on this guy, it just doesn't look right. It pokes out. But yeah, I mean, just a night and day difference. This one has like goofy proportions, and this is much more realistic. This is the head I was talking about. This is the Mezco head sculpt, and I'm like, this was actually a really great sculpt.
and his mouth was slightly turned up a little bit, so I kind of just accentuated it with the paint job and made it look more like a smile, because that's how I like Superman to be, like kind of happy. And I resculpted the hair, which is why it's parted on the correct side, and then I used a piece of thread to make the curl hang down. So yeah, I'm still really happy with the way this head looks, and I want to try it on this guy and see what it looks like here.
So I went ahead and did the whole thing. I know I said, oh, I'm gonna swap the head and we'll see how that looks, but once I got the custom head on there, I was like, nah, I need to just finish it all the way through and then check back in. So here we have it. I'm gonna take it back to the bench so we get better lighting to look at it overall, but I just wanted to introduce the final version in this shot here because I think it looks really cool just standing there like that. There's an incredible sculpt underneath that paint job. The paint job wasn't the greatest on that head. You know, it was an earlier Mezco 112 figure, but I think it's one of the best Henry Cavill head sculpts in any scale by any company. So, and I think that's really evident here when you look at this. I mean, I feel like this really looks like Henry Cavill, and it's a lot more lifelike. This is my dry brushed silver and some metallic blue on there to give it the musculature, and it really just helps him not look like he's wearing some Superman pajamas. And you can see back here, there's a little magnet there. I have this cape management thing I do with these tiny little neodymium magnets. It just keeps the cape out of the way. This cape sucks. Like, it's not good. It's a nice material, but it's just too big and it's unruly, and it's really hard to keep in like a managed setup. So that's why I use these little magnets. It just kind of keeps it from just like draping out, looking like he has a tent strapped to his back. So yeah, God, that's Henry Cavill right there. Like, that's a little mini Superman. I always worry about stretching out the material on these, and he's gonna be like this in my display, and I'll show you the final spot for him in my display on my shelf. But suffice it to say, he's not gonna be flying or punching anybody. And you know, I get these and I set them up in a way that I really want to display them, that I can look at every day, that really just makes me happy. And I don't really do a lot of like setting them up and taking pictures with them. So that's why I'm not too worried about the articulation. And I haven't done an articulation segment on this. Like, anyone who reviews this is going to do that. And, you know, these bodies are all pretty standard. We all know pretty much what they're going to do. So I personally tend to skip the articulation stuff on reviews anyway. So apologies if you wanted to see that. But, you know, check out my buddy Perfect 112 Customs, because he does the full articulation setup. So let's, before we get this at a closer look on the workbench, I want to show you some comparisons with some other Superman figures. All right, so here he is next to the SH Figuarts Justice League Superman with a Manipple head sculpt. And then on the right is my custom Man of Steel Mezco figure. Now this again was a knockoff base. And then the same head sculpt is on these two. It's just a difference of like how I painted it and how I sculpted the hair. And then here he is again next to my custom Mezco Tyler Hoechlin Superman, and then the BMS V Toys Kingdom Come Superman on the right. So let's get the Manipple figure under better lighting and take a look at what I did to it.
I used this kind of paint. I used this blue metallic one, and then the same brand in silver. And these are cheap. You know, I'll put an Amazon link, but you can get these in any craft store. Essentially, I just mixed it and then very lightly with a dry brush, just kind of like swept it across these, right? Like just like this, and in the shapes that I wanted. So I looked at the Hot Toys version, and I looked at the patterning on the silver that you can see underneath, and I mimicked that essentially. The nice thing about this one, so because it does have the chromed out body underneath, it helps to accentuate the silver paint. And so even in some of the areas where it's there, the chrome shines through. That really just helps to send it home, I feel like. And it really, the silver paint accentuates what's already there, which was pretty necessary. And you can see like it cuts definition now into him. It's not just like a, you know, sock on his body kind of thing. So, you know, I did the arms, the shoulders. I didn't do the backside because it does have the chrome body underneath, and I feel like that's good enough for the part that you don't see. And also I didn't want the silver to potentially like rub onto the cape, especially once I get the custom cape on this. It's just so naturalistic, just standing there like that. The head, I touched up some of the paint on this. You know, it had been a while. I'm much better at this now. So I just kind of touched up some of the skin tone, and then I repainted the eyes to make them just like a better shade of blue. So, the other thing I did was as I mentioned before, I painted this a metallic blue, this like trim piece where the cape is. I did want to try to paint the S more of a metallic red and then do a little bit of painting on the boots, but I don't have the right paint for it. I'm going to keep an eye out for it, but in the meantime, I decided to leave it as is. All right, so lastly, let's get this guy in his place in the big DCEU display that I have on my shelf, and we'll take a look at it all together. All right, and there is my custom DCEU display with Superman front and center where he belongs. I'm super happy with the result of this, especially over the custom one that I had before. This just looks so much better. I wish it looked as good on camera as it does to the naked eye, because it looks absolutely phenomenal standing here in the room. Quick shout out to Hawkman. I just made this recently. I didn't do it on the channel. I just made it in my downtime and put it on my Instagram. I think I did a YouTube short of it as well, but I'd been wanting to make that for probably at least a year. So I finally got to that. And this is a display. I did a video on this whole display and talked about all the parts that went into it. I built that Justice League Flying Fox ramp. So if you enjoy this kind of thing, if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see other cool stuff that I've made on the channel, please give it a subscribe and hit like on the video. That helps people find it. It's the same thing all the YouTubers say, right? It feeds the algorithm, lets people see our stuff. I think I make a lot of stuff I'm really proud of, and I don't think a lot of people know about it. So if you want to share links, I'd really, really appreciate it. I make all kinds of cool things on this channel. I do vehicles for the figures. I built this Knight Rider almost from scratch. A bunch of other vehicles. I got Blade right there. There's a bunch on the channel. And then lastly, I mentioned earlier, I'm a comic book artist. I have a graphic novel coming out. This is my book, CYN. It is kind of a sci-fi Western. It's sort of like T2 meets Unforgiven. I'm really proud of it, and it's a loose sequel to my book Count, which was my sci-fi remix of The Count of Monte Cristo. So this comes out June 18th. You may be watching this by the time this is already out, and I'm super proud of it. It's, I think, a really fun book, and I will put a trailer at the very end of this video, so I would be very grateful if you'd stick around to watch it and check out what the book is about. And that is available on Amazon. I will have an affiliate link in the description below, as well as a link to some of the paints I used and the little magnets that I used to manage the cape, because I think that's pretty helpful for people. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep your head on swivel.